6 horrifying bugs that forgot to follow the rules of nature. The tree of life is jam-packed with sublime majesty, as long as you don't look too closely. When you examine some of Mother Nature's tiniest creations under a magnifying glass, it becomes all too clear that whereas human beings are mostly carbon and water, bugs are made of equal parts nightmares and hell-dimension rage. Number 6. Exploding ants kill themselves to trap predators in poisonous goo. In Borneo, there is a species of ant called Camponotus cylindricus. About half of these little buggers' volume is made up of a toxic, sticky substance that researchers refer to as yellow goo. When threatened by a predator, usually a larger ant, the exploding ant will lock onto its attacker's legs with their mandibles, flip upside down in nature's unsexiest dance battle, and squeeze their abdominal muscles until their butts literally explode. This serves a dual purpose. First, the yellow goo is toxic, so there's a good chance it will simply kill the aggressor outright. And if that doesn't work, it's also extremely sticky. It effectively glues the exploding ant's corpse to its enemy. So even if whatever attacks an exploding ant is sturdy enough to survive being massively poisoned, it still has to live out the remainder of its short life in a horrific, involuntary remake of Weekend at Bernie's. It sounds insane, but it's not uncommon for highly social insects such as ants to go kamikaze to protect their nest. Thing is, exploding ants will do it at the slightest provocation. A gentle poke with forceps in a lab is enough to make them initiate ass-burning protocol. They'll even do it hundreds of meters away from their nest if a larger ant so much as takes a step into their foraging grounds. That's sort of like blowing up your neighbor at the Food Lion on the off chance that they might snatch the last tube of macaroni salad. Number 5. Twisted wing parasites turn their hosts into body horror rape zombies. Twisted wing parasites start out life as tiny larvae, very tiny, can crawl right inside a bee, silverfish, or cockroach tiny. Once inside a host, their mere presence causes their host genitals to straight up vanish in the most dickish magic trick since Batman drowned Wolverine. Once they grow up big and strong, the male twisted wing parasites leave their host and fly off to fulfill the singular mission of every single pubescent male in the animal kingdom: have as much sex as possible before they die of a spontaneous dick explosion. Problem is, female twisted wing parasites never grow wings. For that matter, they never develop much past the larvae stage or even leave their host. Number 4. The bonehouse wasp captures spiders and locks them in a corpse cellar where they are eaten alive. While a spider hawk might sound like a nightmare sprung to chittering life, it's actually a wasp. More specifically, it's a huge-tastic wasp that plants its eggs inside of captured spiders. When the eggs hatch, the babies slowly eat the spider from the inside out while it's still alive, because the mating habits of anything with more than 4 legs is required to be hideous. While the usual method of a spider hawk is to trap its paralyzed and freshly inseminated victims inside a chamber with walls made of dirt and saliva. Number 3. Tiny flies behead ants and live inside their severed craniums. The Dornifera fly prefers to follow a hearty bone session with some good old-fashioned ritualistic decapitation. Tiny copulating pairs of these flies will swoop in on injured ants. Then, after the male has reached his climax, he disembarks and watches as the female uses her long, saw-like proboscis to hack off the ant's noggin before she hauls it away to a safe spot for brain eating. Scientists believe this objectively psychotic behavior is in fact a necessary component of the fly's reproductive cycle. The immediate infusion of proteins from the ant brains is vital for fueling the development of the female's newly fertilized eggs. Number 2. Borneo's giant red leech is a carnivorous tube sock. Home to exploding ants and gigantic stick bugs and titanic prehistoric river rays, Borneo is not only full of biological monstrosities, but also apparently a phantasmagorical laboratory constantly churning out new horrors, including an enormous 2-foot-long earthworm that looks like a disembodied intestinal tract brought to life via witchcraft. The good news is that while these worms might look extremely disgusting, they don't really harm anything. The bad news is this entry isn't about them. It's about what hunts them. Discovered a mere 2 years ago, the giant red leech slips across the forest floor with shocking speed, sniffing out the trails of mucus left behind by its massive earthworm prey. When it finds one of the said worms, it slithers its obscene mouth parts along the length of the worm's body in a deeply uncomfortable display, at which point it proceeds to slurp up its prey like a fat, slimy spaghetti noodle. Just look at it. Number 1. Flesh-eating bees make meat honey. Vulture bees, however, don't get their protein from pollen and nectar like most other bees. As their name suggests, they live on the flesh of the dead. Equipped with sharp jaws for butchering meat, the bees rally their carnivorous kin using trails of pheromones, and then working with bee-like efficiency, they burrow into animal corpses, stripping away skin and feathers and turning carcasses to skeletons in mere hours. Of course, the whole reason bees make honey is that they don't eat all their food right away. That's why honey basically has a shelf life of forever. Therefore, until the day insects invent tiny refrigerators, vulture bees have a big, stinky problem. Meat has a tendency to rot. So how do these flying affronts to natural order stave off starvation? Simple. They do what all bees do. They make honey. Meat honey.